All right, let's jump into Genesis chapter 5. At first glance, this chapter can look like one of those really dry, dusty lists of names and numbers that you're tempted to just skim through. But I'm telling you, if we slow down and really look closer, we're going to find that this is one of the most powerful chapters on sin, death, and hope in the entire Bible. This isn't just a genealogy, it's this beautifully constructed argument about the real-world consequences of what happened back in Genesis 3. So, here's how we're going to break it down today. We'll start with this relentless pattern the author establishes, kind of like a drumbeat. Then we'll look at the inherited reason behind it. After that, we get to the really exciting part, the stunning break in that pattern, the hope that follows, and finally, what this all means for you and me today. Okay, first things first. We really need to feel the rhythm of this chapter. The author isn't just listing names for the sake of it. They're creating this hypnotic cadence. It's a literary device, and it's designed to show us the long, slow, and just inevitable result of humanity's fall from God. This is what sin looks like when it settles deep into the human condition over generations. So, the author sets up this super predictable formula for almost every single person mentioned. It's so consistent that after the first couple of names, you start to anticipate it. You get a name, you find out how old he was when his first son was born, he lives for a few more centuries, you get his total lifespan, and then there it is, that final, unavoidable phrase. It just creates this overwhelming sense of inevitability. And of course, it all starts with the first man, Adam. And just think about that for a second. 930 years. I mean, that's an incredibly long and full life by any standard we can imagine. The text is establishing right away the amazing potential for human longevity. And yet, it ends with those three little words that become the somber, rhythmic drumbeat of this entire chapter. And he died. The warning from the garden in Genesis 3? Yeah, it's now a reality. And the pattern just continues, without missing a single beat. His son, Seth, also lives an extraordinarily long life, a very respectable 912 years. And again, the same conclusion. You see what the author is doing, right? They're hammering this point home. Death isn't some strange anomaly anymore. It's become the normal, expected human experience. This is the new rhythm of life in a fallen world. Okay, so we've got the pattern down. We feel that drumbeat. But the author doesn't just show us what is happening. They sneak in this subtle but absolutely crucial detail right at the beginning that explains why. This is where we find the root cause of this rhythm of death. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The chapter starts by reminding us that humanity was made in God's likeness, right? It's calling back to Genesis 1. But then, right after that, it says, Adam had a son in his own likeness. The implication there is just profound. Sin isn't just a bad choice we make. It's a fractured condition that is now passed down from parent to child. The divine image is still there, but it's been marred, and that brokenness is now inherited. So for hundreds and hundreds of years, this drumbeat is just unbroken. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared. I mean, life after life follows the exact same formula. The rhythm becomes almost boring, Until we get to one man who completely shatters the entire pattern. But before we get to him, the author gives us the standard entry for his father, Jared. Another really long life, 962 years. And this is totally intentional. It sets our expectation. We're thinking, okay, here we go again, same old story. And there's that drum beat again, lulling us into the rhythm one last time. It's the perfect setup for the shock that's about to come. And then, bam, everything changes. The formula just shatters. The writer completely abandons all the details about age and how many years he lived and focuses on something totally different, his relationship, his character. Enoch walked with God. So do you notice what's missing? That key phrase, and he died, it's just gone. It's replaced by this mysterious, beautiful statement. This is it. This is the literary and the theological climax of the whole chapter. A deep, personal relationship with God is shown to be the one thing powerful enough to interrupt the cycle of death. So what does this phrase even mean, to walk with God? Well, it's not about just performing religious duties or checking boxes. It signifies this deep, ongoing companionship. It's a relationship, not a transaction. And it's this quality, this kind of intimacy, that's presented here as the one true antidote to the endless cycle of sin and death. Now, after this incredible interruption, the pattern of and he died actually comes back. But the chapter doesn't just fall back into despair. No, now it moves forward with a totally new sense of expectation. Hope has entered the building. Right after Enoch, we meet his son, Methuselah. And the text makes a big deal about his age, 969 years, the longest human life ever recorded in the Bible. The author is literally showing us the absolute peak of human longevity. But then, and he died. This is so brilliant. It illustrates the point perfectly. Even the absolute longest life, the very maximum of human potential, it still can't solve the fundamental problem. Time doesn't save us. A long life is not the answer to death. But then, just as the genealogy is ending, it lands on this incredible note of explicit hope. We're introduced to Noah, whose name literally means rest. And his father, Lamech, actually gives a prophecy at his birth, positioning Noah as the answer to the curse from Genesis 3. The chapter that began with the drumbeat of death now ends by pointing us to a character meant to bring comfort and rest. So what's the point? Why does this ancient list matter to you today? In your studies, in your life, in whatever ministry you're heading towards, what are we supposed to take away from this somber rhythm and its one startling interruption? Well, this chapter gives us a foundational theology of the human condition. It teaches us that, yeah, we live in a world where death is a constant rhythm, our brokenness is inherited, but, and this is so important, that divine image in us, though it's marred, it's still there. And crucially, it shows us that a deep Enoch-like relationship with God can actually interrupt life's fatalistic patterns, and that God always introduces hope for rest, even before the biggest crises hit. And so, this ancient text leaves us with a very modern and a very personal challenge. You know, our lives have a rhythm too, a drumbeat of work and study and routine and responsibilities. The question Genesis 5 really poses to each of us is this: in the middle of all that repetitive rhythm, how are we cultivating an Enoch-like walk that doesn't just pass the time, but actually breaks the monotony and brings true life, not just into our future someday, but right here into our present?